Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. This show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewire to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I could not be more excited to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 137. It is the most magical day today. The weather is beautiful, the sun is shining, vibes are high, I'm feeling good. I am so excited to be jumping on here with you guys. I hope you guys are having an incredible Tuesday. If you guys are tuning in on Tuesday, whatever day it is, I hope you're having a wonderful day. I am in such a high vibe state today, which pairs so nicely with what we are going to talk about today. Full transparency, I spent the last 30 minutes dancing around my apartment. It was one of those days where I just wanted to blast the music as loud as I could and have a little dance party. And to say that it elevated my mood would be an understatement. There is just such power and beauty in celebrating and being in your own energy. It is one of the most pure, amazing feelings that you can have, but it is something that you can only give to yourself, which again, the word vibe is something we are going to be talking about a lot today. I do just want to quickly throw in, if you did not listen to last episode number 136, Are You Self-Sabotaging? I definitely encourage you to listen to that episode. I feel in a way it actually strongly correlates with what we're going to talk about today, which is really, really exciting. Also in exciting news, I just ordered a new microphone. I feel like my microphone is not doing as good a job as possible of picking up the best audio quality, and so I want to make sure I am delivering the best audio quality as possible for each and every one of you. So I hope that you guys can notice a difference in hopefully a week's time. It's supposed to be here on Tuesday. Thank God for Amazon. So hopefully you guys will be able to hear a difference in next week's episodes. I'm going to be redoing my intro and outro and all that fancy jazz. So like I mentioned a couple times last week, we are changing things up a little bit. My brand is changing a little bit. What I deliver is going to be a little bit different, but nonetheless, we are staying on the same mission and trajectory. So blah, blah, ding, ding. Let's dive into today's episode number 137. And for today, as you guys read in the title, we are going to be talking about 5 reasons your vibe might be low. I feel like I can talk about this subject for hours because I know what both sides of this feel like. Now, I'm not saying that we are always going to be in a heightened, high vibe state. We are supposed to ebb and flow in our feelings, in our emotions, in our vibe, in our frequency. It is supposed to ebb and flow in different seasons, different experiences, different life events, etc. I'm talking holistically. You know the people in your life that when you get around them, you feel like they give you energy. They are a light. You feel, whenever you're done hanging around them, you feel energized. And we also have people in our life that can do the opposite. We almost feel like they suck the energy out of us. And it's not that we do this intentionally. It's that our vibe is so low that we're actually pulling other people's energies down. And I used to have the belief that it only worked in that way, that we could only pull each other's energies down. I now know how equally true it is that we can also raise each other's vibe. We can raise each other's frequency momentarily. However, I want you to assess for yourself right now, would you consider yourself to be a high vibe person or a low vibe person? And I don't mean like, are you reserved, are you introverted, or are you extroverted? I mean, are you somebody who carries yourself with pride? Are you somebody who feels like you are someone who sees the glass half full versus half empty? That's kind of what I'm talking about here. And so the way in which I came up with these 5 reasons is because these are all reasons that I've experienced in my life. And these have all been factors of why I was living in a very, very low vibe for a lot of my life. I got a couple messages this week from incredible beings, and energy compliments, from my perspective, are one of the most humbling, heartwarming compliments that you can get. If somebody compliments you on your energy, that, to me, from my perspective, is one of the most beautiful things you can be complimented on. And I got 2 messages this week from 2 incredible beings. Shout out to you if you are tuning in right now. Thank you so, so much. And that is, the reason I share that is because that is what I'm striving for. I want to encourage and empower each and every one of you guys as well to be able to do the healing so that you can get to a place where you can be in that energetic space as well. I do want to preface before I dive in that some of us are really good at being in that heightened energy around other people because we want to cover pain. We don't want other people to know that we're hurting inside. And so what we do is we put on a persona or a show that we are operating higher than we actually are. And then when we get back into our own states, we kind of shut down. And again, I'm not saying we have to be in that state all the time. It is normal to come home and just be in your space and relax. But I want you to ask yourself, if you're someone who feels like you almost have to put on a show to make sure people feel comfortable, they feel safe, they feel good. And are you actually feeling that in your heart, or do you feel you're more so doing it to serve other people? So just a couple dualities I wanted you guys to hold in your minds before we dive into these 5 reasons. So I'm going to stop blabbing and we're going to dive in. So a large reason why your vibe might be low is you're spending a lot of time in the past, and you might not realize it consciously, but your body and your memory and your nervous system are still in the past. This is something that's going to be hard to maybe assess right now in this moment. One thing that you can do is ask yourself, where do I spend most of my time thinking? Are you someone who spends a lot of your mind time in the past, reminiscing on the past, dwelling on the past, just living there? It's, again, some of these are hard to assess for ourselves in the moment, so they're going to take time. A way that I can kind of guesstimate if you're living in the past is, how much healing have you done? I've heard so many people say, well, I don't really need to heal. I don't have anything in my past. Healing isn't necessarily that we've had these huge, big T traumas happen in our life, but we've all had and experienced little T's. We've all had bad days. We've all had shit happen to us. We've all had stuff disrupt our nervous system. All of us. Does not matter if you had the perfect white picket fence, perfect childhood, which again does not exist. If you have done zero healing, self-reflection, turning within to even just contemplate your past, there's likely a part of you that's still living there. The reason that I say that is because if you haven't taken time to intentionally go back and heal and visit, a part of your system will always kind of be hanging out there. Have you validated your past is another one. Do you find yourself looking forward to things in the future is another cue that would tell me where you're kind of living. The reason that I put this point on here is you're living in the past is mostly because what that means is you're not being fully present. When we're not fully present, that means our nervous system and our mind is somewhere else. It is very hard to have a high vibe, to heal a low vibe, if we're not being present. Because when we're not present, we're not really in our bodies. When we're not in our bodies, we can't feel that energy. We're not able to assess where we're at. We're not able to show up as empowered and holistically as possible because a part of us isn't actually with us. I know this so deeply to be true because when I was in a lower vibrational state, it's because so much of my nervous system was still tied up in my past. I had so much stuff that I hadn't healed yet that I couldn't really be in a heightened state because my mind was still reminiscing on times in my life that provoked pain, provoked curiosity provoked the need to have answers. And so again, the first reason that your vibe might be low is you're living in the past, you're not fully present. If I even ask you, are you fully present, and you're unsure of the answer, that tells me that there's a part of you that is in a constant state of alert. Your nervous system might be on guard and you might not even realize it. And so the empowering thing about each and every one of these reasons that I'm going to share with you guys is that you can overcome them. You can heal them. You can work on them. A huge way that we can start to work on that one is grounding ourselves. Sometimes when we talk about grounding and healing and these things, it can sound like such bullshit. We almost feel like, because it's talked about so much, I think we've lessened the significance that it can have on our life. Whenever I say grounding, a part of my brain is almost like, it's so talked about that we lose the significance of it. It's the same when we talk about trauma so much. We're like, okay, we get it. Everybody has trauma. Everybody needs to heal, blah, blah. But it's so true. And as soon as we lose sight of the significance that they have on our life, that is when we are really getting ourselves stuck. And so grounding is going to be a huge way. Also, you guys already know I'm going to advocate for finding a therapist, healing your past, even just talking about it. One thing I like to do with my clients, and one thing I used to largely do when I was a counselor, is do these life maps. From ages 0 to whatever you are right now, I want you to go through every single age and write down as many memories as you can on this map. The good, bad, the ugly. This allows you to have time perspective of when certain events may have happened in your life that you might still be holding on to. Maybe where you're holding on to isn't ages 0 to 5. Maybe it's ages 5 to 12. Okay, how can we go there and revisit and heal that time? If we're unsure where we're stuck, we're going to have a hard time knowing what to focus on, which again, this is when a therapist or a counselor can play a really big role in helping you with that. But I do truly believe a large reason why some of us are so stuck in a really, really low vibe, hurt place is because we're not actually living in the present moment. We're stuck in the past, or we're focusing too much on the future and we're losing sight of where we are right now. That is why I celebrated having a dance party at the beginning of this episode, because in those moments, I am fully present. It's a lot easier to raise your vibration when you are in the present moment versus in the past trying to catch up to your present self. So that is a long-winded way of saying the first reason why you might be in a low vibe is because you're not living in the present, you are living in the past, or you're focusing too much on the future. Okay, the second reason. The people that you're surrounding yourself with are mirroring low vibes. So I read this quote the other day, and it fit so nicely into what I was going to talk about with you guys with this point. And it says, you glow differently when you have good people with good intentions in your life. I am smiling right now if you're watching video, because I cannot stress enough how getting out of toxic relationships and away from people that were low vibe changed my life. I'm not saying this to brag about my life, to toot my own horn, but in a way I do have to celebrate, because we have to celebrate those things for us, and I'm very proud of myself for getting here. I don't think I can think of one person in my life right now that I allowed to take my energy and be around or give time to that I would consider a low vibe person. That is not coincidental. Who you choose to surround yourself with is often going to correlate and dictate how you are going to feel about yourself. When I look at my past, it makes so much sense. My vibe was low because I was also living in the past, and some of the other reasons I'm going to get into with you guys. But also because I was surrounding myself with people who were also in a low vibe state. And so we were doing nothing but reiterating those feelings and bouncing them off of each other. I started to feel free the moment I stepped away from relationships that I knew were bleeding me. I knew as soon as I got around them, I felt different. I knew as soon as I got around them, my energy shifted. I've considered myself, if I holistically look at my whole life, I've always kind of been like that too mucher, that extra energy, that excited one, that hyper one, that whatever. But because of experiences and people that I've surrounded myself with, I lost sight of that for a while. And I forgot who I was. And I wasn't around people who allowed me to celebrate my energy or brought out the best in me. In fact, a lot of people in my life did the opposite, where if I was winning, that wasn't celebrated. If I was doing really good, I was villainized for that. Unfortunately, a lot of us have people in our life that are like that, but we choose to stay in those relationships because we have a fear of being alone. We have a fear we won't have friends. We have a fear of even communicating that to other people. But I do want you to know that as long as you allow yourself to surround yourself with people that make you feel less than, you will likely stay in that energetic state. I would encourage you with this one to just begin to assess the people in your life. Maybe make a list of people in your life. Identify the high vibe people and the low vibe people. Spend as little time as possible with the low vibe people and surround yourself with people that have higher energy. If you feel like you have nobody in your life that makes you become that best version of yourself, that makes you want to become better, that makes you just feel empowered, that is a red flag, my love. But it's good awareness to have, because then that means you can do something about it. And it's okay. I could not have thought of one person 2 years ago that I viewed as, I know exactly what it's like to not know where to turn, to feel alone, helpless, and stuck. My goal as a coach is to help clients from a trauma-informed perspective see your worth and develop self-belief so you may chase your dreams and trust your intuition to live the most aligned, fulfilling life possible. If you're looking to elevate your life to the next level but aren't sure where to start, I would absolutely love to connect. If you're feeling pulled or curious, please use the link in the show notes below to book your free call. I look forward to connecting and supporting you on your own unique journey. Having high energy. The people do exist. Those people do exist. We just have to find them. And I want to lead by example in this, of saying that I now know what that is like to hold both of those truths. I know what it's like to only be in relationships that you feel like that is all you will ever have. I have so many clients right now that express this all the time, that that's just how it is. If that's the narration you are telling yourself about your life, that is as good as it gets, that is as good as it's going to get. But once you decide that you don't want that anymore, and you're ready to pivot, and you're ready to just see what could happen, magical things happen. You guys know that I am a spiritual person. I enjoy talking about frequencies and vibes and all of those things. And this, to me, intuitively, is like, this might be far-fetched for some people, but for me, this is my truth, so stay with me. As long as we allow energetically those blocks to stay in our energetic circle, that is all the universe or your higher self or God or whatever will show you, because what we think is how we see the world. It's almost like rose-colored glasses, when we're in love, whatever, everything's perfect. Life is no different. We put on these glasses and we look at the world from the lens in which we believe. What we believe is what we will see. And so until you believe that you can get around other people, you won't see that. You won't believe that. And so we sometimes need to just take that off, set boundaries, and just try and see what happens. You will not attract in which you are also not. And so if you are also in a really low state, you are going to continue to attract experiences, people, circumstances that reiterate that belief for you. Everything we experience is a direct mirror of who we are. If good things keep coming into your life, it's probably because you are mirroring good things, you are becoming wholesome, you are focusing on yourself, and so you're attracting that. The same works in reverse. And so if you feel like you've been down in the dumps and everything's negative and everything's going to shit and nothing is aligning for you, it starts with yourself, and it starts with identifying and admitting that for yourself. So that is the second reason, you guys, is the people in your life are likely mirroring that behavior for you. And as long as we stay in those circles, we're basically communicating that we're okay with this. This is all we're deserving of. This is all we want. And so you're going to continue to attract the things in which are the same frequency. Oh my God, number 3. I'm so glad that I can finally talk about this one, because I refuse to talk about things in which I am not practicing. I have a very hard time not being genuine in how I am behind the scenes. And so this next one I'm going to talk about is about gut health. The foods that you eat dictate your energy more than you know. And I know intuitively we all know this like a little bit. We're like, yeah, okay, I know when I eat McDonald's, I feel like crap and I'm not like bouncing off the walls. But even just the intentionality behind what you consume, to me, largely speaks about your relationship with yourself. If you are okay eating junk food all the time, food that is not nourishing, food that you know is not going to benefit you, that to me communicates some respect for yourself. I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not saying I don't eat some chicken nuggets from McDonald's every now and again. Like, that is not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is I am very intentional before I eat something of what it's going to do to my body. This is also another layer of slowing down and being mindful. When we are able to check in with our body, and this also comes down to being able to be present. If we're not present, we're kind of just like eating things just to eat, and we're not really thinking, oh my gosh, my flowers petals just like all crumbled to the ground. Love that for me. But if we are not mindfully asking ourselves how something is going to serve us in the future, and we are just focusing on in the moment pleasure, that also is going to dictate how you view yourself. Because if you are focusing solely on present pleasure versus future fulfillment, that is going to dictate your vibe. The thing about gut health is we think so many hormones come from our mind. So many of them come from our gut. I definitely encourage you listening to just do some research on this and find what works for you. I am not perfect with food, you guys. I am rebuilding my relationship with this. I am someone who really struggles to be consistent in eating. A long time will go by before I remember, and so I'm setting up a system now that works for me, but this has taken 10 years to even get to this place. But I have noticed a enormous difference in how Jessie is showing up since I've started focusing on cleansing. I hate the word cleanse. I'm going to change that to focusing on my gut health versus just consuming whatever. The thing is we all know, bad foods and good foods and whatever, they really don't exist. It's just food. It's what is going to nourish your body. But we need to also admit and know that refined foods, processed sugars, all that stuff, it triggers a hormonal response in our body. So much deeper than I could have ever realized. And we need to know that when we do that, we're reducing our blood sugar levels, which is doing everything in our body has a trickle effect. And when that happens and our hormones are messed up, it's like that affects our mood, that affects our dopamine, that affects our serotonin, that affects our cortisol, that affects our sleep, our melatonin. Everything gets disrupted. Everything we put in our body, we have to know it's doing something internally. Once we consume it and we don't see it, it's like, out of my hands now. Know that our body has to tend to that and do something to that. And if we are constantly drinking or eating bad food, not nourishing ourselves, not being mindful, not hydrating, that is affecting you. We might not realize it in the moment, and that's the thing about diet. And I'm not saying like going on a diet, I'm saying what we consume in nutrition is we don't really see a difference day to day, but month to month, year to year, you will start to see a difference and it will catch up with you. Focusing on gut health not only is just holistically good for you, but I promise you that it is dictating your hormones, your mood, your vibe, so much more than you realize. So be mindful of nourishing your body. This is also a form of self-love, of taking care of yourself, of hygiene. It's okay to have things sometimes that are fun, but if 90% of the time you're not mindful of what you're eating or why you're eating it, it's time to slow down and notice. Because that tells me that you're not being intentional, you're not being present, which is also, again, like my first point, lowering your vibe. So that is point number 3, is gut health. Low vibe foods will lower your vibe. Higher vibe foods, meaning nutrition dense foods, will heighten your mood. Okay, let's power through these next two because I know that I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole today, but I love this subject so much. Number 4 is so self-explanatory and it makes so much sense, but you're not in alignment. How hard is it to be in a high vibe state if our body knows we're not in alignment? I've done several episodes on this podcast about living in alignment and what that means and when we're not and when we are, and that's going to be unique to each and every one of you. But if you are finding yourself every single day waking up like, ugh, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this, I can't do this, I'm so done with this. If you're resonating with having those thoughts on a daily basis, something in your life is not in alignment. Something in your life is not serving you, something is not working. And until you identify that and shift that, baby, it's going to keep going. It's going to keep perpetuating. What we don't change will continue to cycle. Not living in alignment comes down to, again, I talked about frequency a couple minutes ago. Low vibes, if we look at the frequency chart, which I've talked about a lot on this podcast, Google the frequency chart if you don't know what I'm talking about. It will change your life when you have this visual. Shame, desire, and fear are 3 of the lowest vibes we can have. Shame, desire, and fear. When we're not in alignment, it's typically because we have fear of going after something we want, we have shame about something from the past, or we have desire to want more, but we're not doing anything about it. Now think about living in a state where all 3 of those emotions are present at the same time. It's basically impossible to be in a high vibe state. Shame, desire, fear. Reverse of that. High vibes that we can have. Willingness, courage, and reason. Those are high vibes to have. Willingness to do more, to become more. Courage to fail, to take a risk, to try, to be curious, to heal. And reason for being. Something that you're striving for. Even when I say these words, one of them to me is past focused and one of them is future focused. To me, shame, desire, and fear are very past oriented. Willingness, courage, and reason are very future oriented. Yes, we want to be present, but it's better to be future oriented than dwelling on the past. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Not lessening experiences that have happened in the past and not saying we don't have to visit them and heal them. But how much of our life are we spending not in alignment because we're not being present? We're so stuck in the past that it's nearly impossible to focus on a brighter future. And so, like I said, I have many episodes about how to align your life, how to refocus on that, and I'll probably do another episode on it soon because I'm so passionate about this subject. But if your vibe is low, 9 times out of 10, if not 9.9 times out of 10, it's because something in your life is not in alignment. You might not know what that thing is, so I encourage you to look at persons, people in your life, places, things, and ideas, your job, your friends, your habits, your way of being, everything that you invest energy into, what is in alignment, what is serving you, and what isn't. I talk all the time about making a list about all the things that you invest your energy into in the run of a day. What are you investing in versus what you're getting out? When I even say that question, what's not in alignment, boom, we typically have one thing that comes to mind. We usually have at least one thing that's not serving us, but we have to admit that to ourselves and do the hard work to shift it. Raising our vibe is not an easy thing to do by any means, but it's possible. It's possible for you. I just want to reiterate, you guys, my belief in myself to heal 5 years ago was next to nothing. I have tried and contemplated taking my life multiple times in my life, which is something I rarely talk about, but I feel I need to share really where I've come from, because now when people look at me, they just think, oh, you have it all figured out, you're such a light, you're so positive, whatever. What you don't know is the other side of that. The pain that has gotten me here. There's a reason I'm so passionate about talking these things, because you guys, if you are listening to this, it is possible for you. But if you do not believe it is possible for you and you are not willing to do the work to get to the other side, you will stay stuck and you will stay there. And that is the hard truth that we need to admit to ourselves. Life does not just really change for us. Sometimes necessity can come in and things can happen that push us faster to shift. Don't wait for that point. Don't wait for something horrific to happen to shift your life. Turn within. It is never too late to turn within. Okay, that is number 4. You're not in alignment. Last but not least, low self-awareness. 0 to 10. How well do you know yourself? If you don't know your values, if you don't know your beliefs, if you don't know your passions, your self-awareness is probably low. When we have low self-awareness, basically the best word that comes into my head is autopilot. When we are on autopilot, we're not being intentional. We're not intentional and we're not present, which reverts back to everything that I was saying earlier. When we lose touch with ourselves, typically this happens when we've undergone trauma, multiple traumas. Sorry, you guys. I feel like every episode, my nose is so unbelievably itchy. It's not even funny. So if you're watching video and you just see me constantly scratching my nose, I'm so sorry. Goodness gracious, going off the walls here. Low self-awareness. 0 to 10, where would you rate your self-awareness? Again, I have a couple episodes on this as well. When we are numb or dissociated or on autopilot and we're not intentionally living in the present moment, it's going to be very, very hard to be in a high vibe state. Start by identifying what your relationship is with yourself. How present are you? This comes back to number 1. Are you living in the past, future, or present? Self-awareness allows us to check in with ourselves, to assess ourselves. Even now, when there's days that I am in a low vibe, I know that consciously. I can self-assess that because I have worked for so long on raising my self-awareness. I know intuitively when my body is saying something. I now am pretty good at knowing what it means. This has taken building a relationship with myself. I started this episode with talking about dancing. Dancing was one of the ways that I healed myself. Am I a good dancer? No, it's absolutely terrible. It's embarrassing. It's the worst, but it's the best at the same time because you can't be moody when you shake your booty. I'm working on self-love, working on building that relationship with myself. The first time that I danced around my living room, I felt so icky and disgusting. I was nauseous to my stomach. The reason for that is because my relationship with myself was so toxic that even that I felt undeserving of. That was lessening my vibe. We have to work on gaining trust and coming back to our bodies, feeling safe in our bodies. Again, get a counselor or therapist or psychiatrist or someone that can help you with this to come back to your body. Again, I like to come from everything with a trauma-informed view and perspective and belief. I do truly believe a large reason of why we don't have high self-awareness is because maybe a lot of your life you've had to spend in that dissociative state. You've been in that hyper-arousal state. You've been overwhelmed in survival for so long that you've just lost touch with yourself. You can refine that. You can build that again. You can rewrite your narrative. I know what it's like to go into that dissociative state and be there for days, weeks, months, years. I've spent a lot of my life in my mind and I've suppressed so many things in my life that I don't even remember because I was in that state. And now that I am growing my self-awareness, rebuilding my relationship with being in my body, I've been able to heal so many things that I never even knew existed, which is allowing me to also be more intentional, be in my body, and raise my vibe. So, you guys, I know a lot of the things that I shared today were about my experiences and things that have helped me. Each of these 5 things are the most common I see with people I work with. The most common that I've seen with friends, with family members. So I'm going to hammer through them again. You're living in the past. The people you're surrounding yourself with are a mirror of low vibes. Your gut health is not the best. You're not in alignment and you have low self-awareness. Choose one of these. If there's one of these that I can encourage you to start with, honestly, because it's the most tangible, it's your gut health. Starting with how you nourish your body will then trickle into taking better care of yourself. It will gain momentum for maybe moving your body, which then might work on more self-awareness, self-love, being present. start with the one that you feel aligns with you best. The one that you want to do the least is probably the one you actually need to do the most. And so know that you are never alone with any of these. If you are looking for support, I would love to hop on a call with you. Again, I do one-on-one trauma-informed coaching. If that is something that sounds intriguing with you, I do offer a couple of free sessions in the beginning just to get to know each other, to show value, and to build a relationship with you. So if that is something that you would love to do, send me a message. I'm on Instagram at Jessie Brown 13. I would love to talk to you and see how I can support you on your own unique journey, and know that you are not alone, and know that I have been in many of these low vibe scenarios and situations that I talked about today. So you guys, all the love. Check in with yourself right now. Take a deep breath. I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I look forward to chatting with you all on Thursday for episode 138. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful, incredible week. All the love. Chat with you all soon. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at Jessie Brown 13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.